On December 4, 1872, Captain David Morehouse felt the cold Atlantic wind. Through his spyglass, he spotted a strange sailing vessel. The brig was tacking awkwardly, yawing in the waves, a sure sign that no one was at the helm. There was no response to the signals from his ship, the Dei Gratia. Silence. After boarding the Mary Celeste, his crew found a perfect order that was more unsettling than chaos. The sails were set. In Captain Briggs's cabin, an untouched breakfast sat on the table. His wife's sewing machine lay nearby with an unfinished piece of work, and children's toys were neatly stacked. There were no signs of a struggle. Why did an experienced captain and his family abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel with 6 months of food and water? Only the lifeboat and navigational instruments were missing. The Mary Celeste is not just a story. It is Patient Zero, whose code for instant disappearance would be copied again and again. In 2007, this pattern was eerily replicated by a modern catamaran, the Kaz II. On board, a laptop was running, a meal was set, and even a video camera was left on, capturing the crew's final peaceful hours. Technology should have prevented such an event, but the mystery only deepened. And how could 25 people from the vessel Joyita vanish in 1955 in the middle of an urgent medical procedure? Bloody bandages and a scalpel were left on the deck, and the ship itself was designed to be practically unsinkable. This is not just a collection of stories. It is an investigation into the code that compels seasoned sailors to do the unthinkable. By the end of this film, you will have 7 keys to the greatest maritime mysteries. We won't just retell legends, we will crack the code of instant disappearance. In 3 minutes, we'll return to the Mary Celeste and analyze the evidence that has been hidden behind myths for 150 years. And in 7 minutes, you'll learn how this story was repeated with precise detail in the 21st century. The logic of a maritime disaster is simple: chaos. But on the Mary Celeste, order reigned, and that shatters everything. The British Admiralty proposed the first theory: pirates or mutiny. It seemed ironclad. The crew was killed, and the criminals escaped. But the facts destroyed it. There were no signs of a struggle. All personal belongings, money, and valuables remained untouched. The valuable cargo, 1,701 barrels of alcohol, worth nearly $1 million by today's standards, was also in place. No pirate would abandon such a prize. The threat was not external. The decision to abandon the ship came from the captain, and the sword found under his bed with blood-like stains was merely a red herring. The real key lay deeper. In the hold. Why would an experienced crew trade a ship with 6 months of supplies for a tiny lifeboat? The answer lies in the cargo: 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. Highly flammable. An inspection revealed that 9 of them were empty. They were made of red oak, which is more porous. An explosive mixture of vapor and air had accumulated in the enclosed hold. The ship's hold became like lungs holding their breath. Invisible pressure was building, creating a sense of an imminent explosion. Captain Briggs, upon opening the hatch, felt this threatening exhale and concluded the ship was about to blow up. He ordered a temporary evacuation, tethering the lifeboat to the ship with a tow line. But a storm or a snapped line severed that connection forever. And what they took with them proves it wasn't an escape, but a tactical retreat. Why were only 3 things missing from the ship? The sextant, the chronometer, and the ship's log. If it were a panic, no one would have wasted time searching for them. This is standard procedure. The order to abandon ship requires the captain to save these specific items. This fact alone debunks all theories of giant squids or aliens. The departure was a conscious act by rational people. They were not fleeing from terror, they were tactically retreating from a threat they believed to be real. Captain Benjamin Briggs made a logical decision based on false information. His story became a template that would be repeated 135 years later, but in the digital age. The Mary Celeste is not a story. It's a blueprint for tragedy. We have identified 5 key elements of this template. First, a completely seaworthy vessel. Second, a complete absence of the crew. Third, untouched personal belongings and cargo. Fourth, no signs of a struggle. Fifth, evidence of a suddenly interrupted routine. In 2007, the drifting catamaran Kaz II was found off the coast of Australia. On board, the engine was running, a sail was up, a laptop was on, and a meal was getting cold on the table. The crew of 3 had vanished. The mystery didn't stay in the 19th century. It is happening now. But instead of a ship's log, the evidence was captured by a digital video camera. and what it recorded in the minutes before the disappearance changes everything. The footage from that camera shows an idyllic scene. One of the brothers, Des Tunstead, is calmly fishing. The catamaran's owner, Derek Batten, is at the helm. The other brother, Peter, is filming. The sea is like a mirror. But by comparing the recording time with the vessel's position, investigators reconstructed a shockingly mundane chain of events. Peter tries to free a tangled fishing line, loses his balance, and falls overboard. His brother Des, without a second thought, jumps into the water after him. Derek Batten is left alone. While trying to furl the sails to start the engine and go back for his friends, he is hit by the boom and also ends up in the water. A cascade of 3 simple mistakes erased the entire crew. The first mistake was the spark, and the lack of safety measures was the dry tinder that ignited instantly. The most dangerous sea monsters aren't krakens, but overconfidence. What made 3 men, with a combined sailing experience of over 50 years, commit a series of childish mistakes? 2 cardinal rules were broken. They didn't wear life jackets and didn't use safety tethers. The answer is a false sense of security. Modern navigation systems, GPS, and autopilot create an illusion of complete control. If everything is working, everything must be under control. The perfect weather and calm coastal waters lulled their vigilance to a fatal level. Psychologically, they were already on shore. The Kaz II is a parable about how technology does not repeal the laws of physics. The most advanced navigator won't save you if you fall overboard without a life jacket. Sometimes danger comes not from the storm, but from the calm. But what if they had no choice but to abandon a vessel that was nearly indestructible? Imagine you are on board. Your brother falls overboard. What is your first, instant reaction? To jump in after him or to throw a life preserver? Be honest with yourself. In 9 out of 10 cases, an untrained person will jump into the water. It's a heroic impulse. But the numbers shatter this picture. In the few seconds it takes for the second person to jump in, a sailboat can drift dozens of meters away. It's already impossible to swim back to it. Instead of 1 person overboard and 1 rescuer on the ship, we have 2 drowning people and an empty ghost ship. The Kaz II tragedy wasn't caused by a malfunction, but by brotherly love. Their decision was human, but it was wrong. Have you ever neglected safety rules because a situation seemed completely under control? Now, let's imagine that instead of an idyllic scene, there were screams and blood on board. The Kaz II is a story of human error in perfect conditions. But what if a ghost ship is found not with signs of a picnic, but with traces of a desperate drama? This story gave us a key to the human factor, but it doesn't explain everything. On board the vessel Joyita, found in the Pacific Ocean, were bloody bandages and a doctor's bag with a scalpel. This changes everything. We move from an accident scenario to a thriller. What medical drama unfolded on board? Was it an injury, an attack, or a mutiny? And how is it connected to the disappearance of 25 people from a vessel that physically could not sink? The Joyita was designed to be the ultimate life raft. Its hull, made of 2-inch thick cedar planks, and its holds, fully lined with 64 cubic meters of cork, made it practically unsinkable. It wasn't a ship, it was a giant life jacket. But when it was found, it was partially flooded and listing heavily. All 25 people had vanished. Why abandon a fortress for 3 flimsy rafts in the open ocean? The bloody bandages shift this mystery from the technical realm to the criminal. The key to the panic on board lay not in the ship's design, but in 1 small rusted pipe. The cause of the flooding was ridiculously mundane, a small leak in a cooling system pipe. Water was slowly entering the bilge. But the pumps failed to work due to a faulty clutch. The water rose, caused a short circuit, and plunged the vessel into complete darkness. The radio also failed. The ship became like a house where the power was cut, the phone line severed, and the front door boarded up while the basement slowly filled with water. Captain Miller, in total darkness, hearing the sloshing of water below deck and having no means of communication, came to the only possible conclusion: the ship was sinking. He didn't know the vessel would survive. This panic explains the evacuation, but it doesn't explain the signs of violence. Where did the blood come from? Theories of pirates or mutiny collapse under one fact: money, valuables, and cargo were left untouched. No one would rob a ship and leave the loot behind. A reconstruction of events unites all the clues. During heavy rolling on the already disabled vessel, Captain Thomas Miller suffers a severe injury. The doctor on board tries to help him, hence the bandages and scalpel. The crew, seeing their incapacitated leader and hearing the incoming water, panics. They launch 3 life rafts and disappear into the ocean forever. We have analyzed human and technical errors, but what if the ocean itself creates threats that were considered myths for centuries? We have examined 3 stories: a perceived threat on the Mary Celeste, a cascade of errors on the Kaz II, and a technical failure on the Joyita. But is there a common cause? For a long time, sailors told tales of sudden walls of water, but scientists dismissed them as fiction. Now, satellite data has proven that rogue waves are real. They occur much more frequently than believed, sinking up to 3 large ships annually. The ocean is not just a backdrop for events, it is an active antagonist. We are moving from investigating past mistakes to understanding real, scientifically proven dangers. And the first of these is a wall of water, the height of a 10-story building. How can a single 25-meter wall of water suddenly emerge from a sea with 3-meter waves? It contradicts basic physics. The old theory spoke of simple addition: 2 waves meet, and their heights combine. But to create a monster, thousands of waves would need to converge at one point, an almost impossible event. Reality is more complex. Modern science has proven that the ocean can transfer energy from smaller waves to a single one, concentrating all its power into one strike. This is the non-linear Schrödinger equation, which turned myth into a mathematical fact. And here is the proof. On January 1, 1995, a laser on the Draupner oil platform recorded a wave 25.6 meters high. The monster was caught. But such a wave doesn't sink a ship. It washes over it, and therein lies its main danger to the crew. What does a person see before a wall of water? Survivors describe the same thing. First, a hole opens up in the sea beneath the ship. Then, a sheer wall of black water rises before them. Its impact doesn't necessarily breach the hull. It sweeps across the deck, carrying away everything in its path: masts, equipment, and most importantly, people. It's like an avalanche hitting a house. It doesn't destroy the foundation but scrapes everything off the exterior, leaving an empty box. This is a perfect explanation for a ghost ship, a functional vessel, no crew, no signs of a struggle. But there is another threat, one that cannot be seen. If they are so dangerous, why do we so rarely record them? Until recently, science believed that a wave higher than 15 meters was a once-in-10,000-year event. The risk seemed negligible. Satellites from the European Space Agency shattered this illusion. In just 3 weeks, their radars detected more than 10 individual waves over 25 meters high in the world's oceans. The conclusion is simple: they are not rare. What is rare are those who survive an encounter with them. Right now, somewhere in the ocean, such a wave could be forming. But if this is a physical impact, what makes people abandon a ship when there is no visible threat? A wall of water explains a lot, but not cases like the Mary Celeste, where there were no signs of a storm, only a quiet, irrational panic. A rogue wave is a devastating blow from the elements, an external threat that attacks the body of the ship and its people. This is one key. But there is another phenomenon. Sailors call it the voice of the sea. It is infrasound, low-frequency waves generated by storms or water movements. The human ear cannot hear them, but our bodies can. A frequency of about 18 hertz resonates with our organs, causing primal fear, hallucinations, and an overwhelming urge to flee. The ocean can attack not the ship, but the crew's psyche directly. How did experienced sailors suddenly start seeing ghosts on an empty deck? The answer lies in a sound that affects the body, not the ears. The human ear hears in the range of 20 to 20,000 hertz. Anything below that is infrasound. It seems like just a low vibration. But engineer Vic Tandy encountered a ghost in his laboratory and found its source, a fan generating a frequency of 18.9 hertz. This number changes everything. It matches the resonant frequency of the human eyeball. Infrasound makes your eyes vibrate, creating shadows and figures in your peripheral vision. The ocean and a ship's hull can become giant generators of this frequency of fear. The crew isn't going mad, they are being deceived by their own physiology. But where could a sound capable of driving someone insane come from in a perfect calm? A storm and wind hitting the hull are obvious generators. But oceanographers have discovered the main source, the voice of the sea. When 2 waves of different lengths collide, they create a standing wave. It acts like a giant piston, striking the atmosphere and generating infrasound of immense power. This sound travels for thousands of kilometers. A ship can be sailing in absolute calm, but be in an acoustic terror zone created by a storm on the other side of the world. Sailors enter an invisible acoustic minefield. Its power can reach 130 decibels, louder than a jet engine. Have you ever felt a baseless anxiety in a completely calm place? How did impersonal physics make Captain Benjamin Briggs abandon his ship? Let's imagine a scenario. The crew of the Mary Celeste experiences a growing sense of dread. They feel like they are being watched. They see shadows. But infrasound alone is not enough. The key is the synergy of threats. This physical discomfort and hallucinations are layered on top of irrational fear. The alcohol vapors in the hold could explode at any moment. Infrasound amplifies this panic to an unbearable level. Captain Briggs, known for his composure, succumbs to an enemy attacking him from within. The crew flees not from a real threat, but from a combination of psychological pressure and a perceived catastrophe. But what if all these theories are just a smokescreen hiding simple human evil? All the natural theories, from rogue waves to infrasound, ignore the main factor in any investigation: human motive. They paint a picture of man as a victim of the elements, but the picture changes if you ask one question: what if the disappearance was beneficial to someone? This question moves the investigation from oceanography to criminology. We have looked into the depths of the ocean long enough. It's time to look into the face of man. We are diving into the world of piracy, mutiny, and insurance fraud, where a ghost ship is not a mystery, but a piece of evidence in the case of a perfect crime. What could be more valuable than a ship and its cargo? The answer: the crew. The Hollywood image of a pirate with a cutlass is long dead. Today they are syndicates with speedboats, GPS, and automatic weapons. Their business model has changed. The main target is not the cargo, which is hard to sell, but the people. A quick seizure, kidnapping the captain and engineers, and demanding a ransom from the ship owner. It's fast and safe money. For them, a ship is just a can. They are not interested in the can itself, but its contents. In this scheme, an empty ship is an abandoned piece of evidence, not a mystery. It's a cynical and rational explanation that doesn't require rogue waves. But does it fit our cases? If it was pirates, why did they leave all the personal belongings, including money and valuables, on the Mary Celeste and Kaz II? The criminal theory collapses here. No signs of a struggle, everything is in place. There was no violent takeover. But on the Joyita, it's a different story. The bloody bandages and the doctor's scalpel. This piece of evidence shatters the picture of a clean disappearance. It could have been a failed pirate attack in which people were injured. Rescuers, boarding the unsinkable Joyita, heard only the whine of a working radio on an empty, waterlogged bridge. The key fits one lock, but is useless for the others. The enemy was not outside. It was within. What would make a crew kill their captain and his family, and then stage a disappearance? Brutality, disputes over profit, unbearable conditions. Captain Briggs was strict but fair, which leaves room for a hypothetical conflict. The main problem with criminal theories is the absence of bodies. But for a mutiny, this is not a problem, but part of the plan. The mutineers have all the time in the world to cover their tracks. Bodies overboard, deck washed clean, ship put in perfect order to create the illusion of a mystery. A ship in the ocean is isolated for thousands of miles from any witness. A mutiny is the perfect crime. It explains everything but proves nothing. It is the Schrodinger's cat of maritime mysteries. The number is shocking. Why in the age of GPS and total surveillance are there no fewer ghost ships? We have considered threats that have existed for centuries: waves, infrasound, piracy. They fit the Mary Celeste well. But how to explain the Kaz II, a modern catamaran that disappeared in 2007? Here, the old theories fail. In the 21st century, a third player has entered the disaster equation. Besides nature and man, it is technology. What if the ghosts are created by automation itself? The enemy is an invisible glitch in the code, a ghost in the machine that deceives the crew. Every year, an average of 3 large vessels vanish without a trace in the world's oceans. This brings us to the autopilot trap. How does a system designed for 100% safety become a direct cause of disaster? A modern ship's bridge is a fortress, autopilot, collision avoidance systems, fire sensors. Everything is designed to eliminate the human factor. But the more reliable the system, the less a person monitors its operation. Their skills atrophy. They transform from a captain into an operator. In the moment of a rare failure, they are psychologically unprepared to take control. A false fire alarm from a sensor becomes their reality. They would rather believe the screen than their own eyes. Trust in automation works like a dam. For years, it holds back a stream of minor problems. But when a crack appears in the dam itself, the accumulated pressure of incompetence bursts through with catastrophic force. The scariest part is that this ghost in the machine leaves no evidence. How real is this threat? The crash of Air France Flight 447 provides the answer. It took the pilots 4 minutes and 23 seconds from the sensor failure to the ocean impact to fail to recognize an automation error. Modern ship bridges are virtually indistinguishable from cockpits. Sailors monitor data on screens, and the numbers destroy the picture of control. How many of the 3 large vessels that disappear annually in the ocean are actually victims of software glitches? We will never know because the black boxes lie at the bottom. Technology is the perfect killer. After the crew abandons the ship, the system can reboot. The faulty sensor returns to normal. Upon inspection, the found vessel will appear perfectly functional. Now, let's reconstruct, second by second, how the ghost in the machine takes control. Night watch. The ocean is calm. The autopilot is steering the vessel. Suddenly, an alarm sounds. A message on the monitor. Fire in the engine room. But the system starts providing contradictory data. The smoke detector is silent, but the temperature sensor is off the charts. The fire suppression system doesn't activate, showing an error. The autopilot disengages. The bridge is a cacophony. The steady hum of the engine is replaced by the wail of 3 different sirens, and the cold light of the monitors casts jagged blue shadows on the crew's faces. The crew loses situational awareness. The captain makes the only decision: save the people. He gives the order to evacuate. And an hour later, the rebellious computer reboots the system. All alarms go silent. The ship continues on its course. So who is the main culprit? Nature, man, or the machine he created? So who is the real killer? A wave, infrasound, pirates, or a software glitch? It seems they are competitors, and we need to choose one. But they are not competitors. They are allies. Imagine a deadly chain. A technical failure causes the initial alarm. The crew's panic is amplified by infrasound from a storm raging hundreds of miles away. In a state of stress, the captain makes a human error and orders an evacuation. And their lifeboat is swamped by that very rogue wave whose existence he considered a myth. The mystery of ghost ships is the mystery of a perfect storm, where all factors converge at a single point. It is a deadly chain of 4 links: technical failure, environmental pressure, human error, and fatal chance. In 2 minutes, we will deliver the final verdict and answer the main question posed at the very beginning. We were looking for a single culprit, but the truth is, one doesn't exist. Ghost ships are not born from a single cause. They are born from a deadly resonance when several threats, weak on their own, merge into one destructive force. We have identified the 7 main factors of our investigation. The Mary Celeste, Kaz II, and Joyita are 3 examples. And here are 4 forces: natural phenomena, acoustic terror, the human factor, and technological traps. Imagine, a small system glitch triggers an alarm. Infrasound from a distant storm amplifies it to irrational terror. In this state, the captain makes a fatal mistake. None of these factors alone is deadly, but together they create a catastrophe. Now we are ready to answer, why did they abandon their ship so suddenly, leaving behind only an eerie order? The answer is, they were not panicking. They were following an order that at that moment seemed to be the only correct one. The ship only appears to be in working order to us, those who found it later. For the crew, at that minute, it was a ticking time bomb. We see no reason for panic because the reasons were invisible. Infrasound, a software glitch, the illusion of an explosion. The decision to abandon the ship is not terror. It is a rational action under completely irrational conditions. When multiple threats converge, a moment of cognitive overload occurs. The captain's brain can no longer process the contradictory information and chooses the simplest way out: evacuation. The captain's brain at that moment is like soil during a downpour. 1 drop, 2, 10, no problem. But when the streams of information merge, a landslide occurs, a single, abrupt, fatal decision. We have solved the mystery of the past. But what does it say about our vulnerability today? Every new technology, from the steam engine to GPS, has created the illusion of complete control over the ocean. The history of ghost ships shatters this illusion. The Kaz II proved that GPS does not save you from human error. The autopilot trap showed that our smart systems can become our enemies. We have not reduced the number of threats. We have only replaced old ones with new, more complex and unpredictable ones. The ocean still demands not conquest, but respect. And the main mystery, just as it was 150 years ago, is human psychology under pressure. On board the unsinkable Joyita were 16 tons of cargo, including medical supplies, but nothing saved the 25 people. The best technology is powerless against a fatal combination of circumstances. It all comes down to one fundamental conflict. We have shown you two poles, two fundamental forces behind the mysteries of ghost ships. On one side, impersonal, all-powerful nature, its waves, its infrasound. On the other, man, his mistakes, his malice, and the technologies he creates. Now the verdict is yours. After everything you have learned, which of these two forces do you think is primarily responsible for most of these mysteries? Write just one word in the comments. Nature, if you believe that in the end, the elements and chance decide everything. Man, if you believe that the root of the problem always lies within ourselves, in our mistakes, our crimes, or the imperfection of our creations. Your verdict, write it in the comments.